You're here with Stop the FOMO, and Brian from Brian's Tech Therapy.
What's up,
And I
guys?
want to say, notice the difference between my complexion and yours. Why is it my skin looks smoother than yours? What's happening? I activated this new feature on StreamYard, skin smoothening, facial optimization. It's using AI to make me look 10 years younger. What do you
Wow.
guys think? And you're not doing it, right, Brian? You have
No,
normal skin right now?
no, I have the tan one on.
You guys caught my poll is this, right? I want to see what's important to viewers as well, because we already know, calibrating, accuracy, reference monitor, that's one, especially for those who plan to get it calibrated. But if you never want to get it calibrated, but you still want to pay for a flagship TV, I think this kind of reflects that.
But first, let me introduce today's sponsor, Hookeys. Yep, you just finished your big old PC Windows build, you have the best of the best, and sadly, you have less than $20 to your name. Hookeys to the rescue. Use my code SF20 and immediate discount. Let's quickly go through the activation process after you've purchased Windows 10 on Hookeys. Go to your Hookeys account and select My Purchased Orders. See your order. To the far right, click on the button that says View Keys Codes to see the Windows CD code. At the bottom of this order where it says Code Card, to the right is the product key you need to activate Windows. So copy this long number, then go to the Windows menu and click on Settings. In the Settings menu at the bottom, select Update and Security. Select Activation, then select Change Product Key, paste what you copied from Hookeys, click Next, click Activate, and you're done. You can download the Windows 10 Pro key and you're up and running. But that's not all, folks. Hookeys has keys for games too. Steam, Origin, Uplay, you name it, you got it. Check out their sites. There are discounts for all sorts of stuff. And most importantly, you want to be productive? What about Office Suite? Yep, you can download a copy of Office Professional with my code SF20 at checkout, and bam.
So if you look at the vote, right, my question was, hey, when judging 2023 TV Shootout winner, which score is most important to you?
Yeah.
And the number one is color accuracy out of the box.
We are going to do out of the box in their best picture mode without touching any settings. And we will judge them in all the elements, and the judges will vote.
And then, of course, number two on this, or tied for a second, is HDR impact, very subjective, and upscaling. And this is kind of new because we're all streaming now. And this goes to something we talked about. What's happening to physical media is streaming the new thing when comparing TVs as well. And we're talking flagship TVs, right? But yes, we'll have so much to unpack today. Can't wait.
Well, most importantly, if you can tell by FOMO's poll, right away what we're looking for this year more than ever has been done is instead of the shootout being filmed or viewed by you guys, we really want you guys to be active in that. And meaning we want to steer it towards the community, to you guys, to be able to tell us what you want to see. What's most important to you, and not make it this snooze fest where you're watching a static camera. So we'll be doing play-by-plays. We'll be talking, we're going to be, so it's not even going to be the golf chat. We're going to be throwing it back and forth. We're going to be interviewing the judges, interviewing the engineers. And there's so many interesting people that are at these events, even what we saw at M-Wave FOMO, that you guys would love to see on camera versus just watching it. So we're going to cover them both. But more importantly, something that you see here, color accuracy out of the box. I know FOMO and I have both felt this way, that sometimes these TVs to calibration at times can be compromised. They lose some of that pop that many of you actually like. And by getting the community involved, FOMO, I don't want people that aren't used to chatting to disappear in the comments. I want to hear from you. So what we're looking to do is we want active engagement. FOMO and I had 500 people watching us eat breakfast at CES. So we want you guys, we want to get like 1,000 strong watching this event. Really do. And I want you guys to be part of it.
And since we have the TV engineers and reps there, a lot of you already have questions for me. Like one person asked, hey, can you ask about upscaling, why you aren't using integer scaling, which is a direct multiplier of the pixel to more pixels versus fuzzy math AI, because it feels softer, great question. Let's pull in Sony and ask, was it Pedro, who's the engineering guy there?
Yeah.
Or let's ask the LG rep, who may not be the engineer. He might have to come back to us later.
Yeah.
But these are questions that, unless we know, and you could ask on the fly, we don't know what you guys want to know. Let's get to some comments and questions. I see a super chat already, but I was going to tell Mozart, I go, you know, if they were going to show up, they might not show up after this comment, but will the spirits and Munsil ladies be there? I need them to autograph my Blu-ray. You know, that's a good point. We might have to invite them. I don't know where they're flying in from. I think they're from California. So I don't know if they're going to be going, but you know what? We could ask Robert. Maybe one of them could be a judge. Hey, that's my face. I look nothing like that.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Samsung or LG use a fork of Android like Fire TV? It would streamline development for cross-platform and help patch exploits. Oh, you bring up a good point. So let's talk about LG and Samsung for a second. Look at how they run their TV platform, ad platform. Look at Vizio as well with their SmartCast. They want complete control over the revenue stream and and they have a dedicated software team. So they're able to actually develop their own software. Sony could do an Android fork, but they have no money for that. So they just rather use straight up Google TV. So the Android fork is kind of like that in-between solution. I'll ask Samsung, but if it's a path that loses them any opportunity to make money and have complete control, they don't want to do it. But you're right. It's very expensive to run your own software. That's why most companies have chosen to just embrace Google TV, Roku TV. And I think Roku may even be a fork of one of these, right? Linux or Android. But it's software development's hard. Look at cars, right? I mean, all these cars and their broken software, it's tough to run a software, have so much software and be a hardware company. We're going to try each week to have a live stream talking about either why we chose this TV, like why is the Sharp or why is the Sony or why is the LG, why was it selected? What's its weaknesses? What are we looking for? How do we expose that TV's weakness? How do we expose its strengths? What is the content we should use to demonstrate that this TV is so good at this? How do other TVs compare to that?
Exactly.
And you know, these are things that every TV has a strength, but every TV also has a weakness. The question is, how do we make it fair for all the TVs to have that 1-2 punch? Give them a shot at winning, right?
Yeah. Well, in our discussions as well, even a TV's weakness may be a strength for you. You know, so we look at which one is good at what. We both did videos last year following up the shootout. We'll have more organized to where things didn't succeed or succeed, and sometimes that will be something you'll prefer. To say it's a Samsung has maybe less accurate, but it's punchier. That might lose it a category, but then make you say, "But I like that." So we're going to do a better job, and that's what this poll kind of lets you know, is that the quiet majority sometimes doesn't share what they want. Then we get hung up on things that perhaps only take care of a certain group that's in the chat. That's why I'm saying if you have 150 people in the chat, I want to see 150 people say hello, because those are the people we want to engage.
Will the TV without a tuner be released in America? So Nick is referring to one of my videos where I mentioned that I think this TCL is releasing this high-end TV in Asia that comes without a tuner. And without a tuner, for some reason, it's really inexpensive, but it has like 5,000 dimming zones. It's 98 inch. It's like this high-powered TV. And the question is, if it's popular in its limited release, there is a good likelihood they'll release it elsewhere. Because I remember, Brian, back in the old days, they had these plasmas with no tuner. And you could only buy them from specialty stores online or whatnot. I remember that, like from Pioneer, from all these different plasma distributors, but you had the option of paying a few $100s less if it didn't have a tuner. And
so
you and I, you know what? We don't need a tuner. We just need internet capability.
So Vizio actually started that in 2016 with their P series. They didn't have a tuner, so it wasn't called a TV. It was just a panel. And then if Robert can back this up, that Panasonic that he had a few years ago, that Hollywood display, didn't have a tuner or any smart capabilities. It was just, and that's, I think, all we care about is use that processing power for picture quality. And I would be much happier for that. So I think that's something they may have to just get rid of. Maybe even at the highest end.
Will the shootout be available as a replay? Of course.
Absolutely.
Definitely. It'll be long, but it will be available as a replay. My friend's memorial is that weekend. I'm so sorry. So I will sadly be out of town for the live stream. And that's another thing about these events. When it's an event, whether it's shootout, M-Wave, or CES coverage, unless there's a copyright strike where YouTube takes it off, I will try to keep it on. But I also create kind of like a edited short version with all the important points. So that's something we'll try to do as well. So if you don't have the full 6 hours or however long it takes to run the entire thing, but you might want to catch everything because there will be no dead air. Our goal is to make sure we have a giant gallon jug as we talk our way through 8 hours of a TV shootout and have so much fun doing it.
Which is no sweat because me and this guy do 5-hour live streams without a problem. We did that with M-Wave. And Lisa, sorry for your loss. I know that's the friend that you had lost not long ago. So we're both thinking about you. We will sorely miss you, though. Your presence will be missed. So if you have a chance to pop on your phone that weekend and just say hi, we're going to be on for a very long time. We'd appreciate you to say hello, but we'll be thinking about you.
Another quick question. Will the new Flanders Scientific QD-OLED be at the shootout? So my understanding is, and this is from the Flanders Scientific, I don't think it's even released until November. I have to double check that. So even if we wanted it, they would have to have one special unit available. So it's unlikely this year, but you never know. You know, maybe magically things will happen. But for sure, we're going to have the Sony BVMs there. And the differences are this: the QD-OLED will be able to have higher specular highlights, right, higher color luminance, but the Sony BVM will go to 1,000 nits, and everything below 1,000 will be reference level. But more importantly, Hollywood has not yet started using the QD-OLED TVs from Flanders Scientific as their reference monitor. So even then, the Sony best represents creator intent as far as the movies will be using, because Hollywood is still using the Sony BVMs. This is a great question. Speaking of Robert, AJ asks, who supplies the TVs for the shootout? It comes straight out of Robert's own stock and inventory. And this is why sometimes the TVs don't look so good. Like last year's G2, what's with all the dirty spot? And he went through maybe 2 TVs before he got the best ones. And Robert does his best to choose the best sample that he has so that each TV has a fair shot. But sometimes the TVs, it is what it is. And, all that's there. That's all that's there.
And that process too, and we're going to bring that to you this year. Last year I did kind of a meet the calibrators. FOMO, you saw that video. We'll be doing that live this year. So with the TVs being calibrated, it's a huge job to do that in the store. That'll be done in the studio this year, and you guys will be able to see and talk to the calibrators while they're calibrating. You'll get a feel for what it entails.
Eric has a great question. It's true that Sharp's QD-OLED is a 60 hertz panel. So first, if you guys don't know, Sharp is introducing its own QD-OLED model in Asia, I think Japan specifically. The question is this coming to the USA? And which leads to, I believe Robert may be the exclusive dealer for Sharp this year as their re-entry to the USA. And this is Sharp Aquos Japan. This is not Sharp Hisense, where from 2015 to 2018, something like that, Hisense licensed the name, but they were all Hisense TVs. Sharp did not like how that worked out. In 2019, they took the name back. And so all Sharp TVs moving forward sold in the US are actually Sharp engineered TVs in Japan, very similar to Sony TVs. And so now to the question, whether 60 hertz panel, I don't even know if it's coming to the USA though. And Robert's response is Sharp's QD-OLED is a 120 hertz panel, but alas, not coming to the US this year, maybe next year. So at CES, we'll find out more. But the XLED, that's their mini LED. And I think this is going to be pretty incredible, mostly because 2,000 dimming zones on a 65-inch TV. And here's something that I get asked all the time, because many of you have this question. Is it confirmed that TCL QM8 is 8-bit FRC or any LCD TV, whether it's 8-bit FRC? Honestly, I cannot tell the difference between 8-bit FRC and native 10-bit. And I defer to Ratings or Artings. Their conclusion was, regardless of the test, the meters used, or anything, they do not see a visible difference between the two, whether in motion or processing. So they've given up mentioning it at all in their reviews, and I'll just accept that because I have yet to see this be an issue, other than maybe 8-bit FRC could save a little bit of money. It's a little bit cheaper, but as long as the end result looks good, And as an example, for example, the LG G3 is a 10-bit native OLED. However, it shows banding, and it has nothing to do with 10 or 8-bit, because normally when you go from 8-bit to 10-bit, you're thinking, oh, you could process better. There's no banding. No, it still has color banding because of its limits of showing certain color gamuts or certain brightnesses or luminescences. It's just not able to process it properly. That's all processing. And I think processing has advanced to the point where it doesn't matter what the hardware is, 8-bit FRC or 10-bit, the software is what does the trick. But how about you, Brian? Like, have you seen any differences or noticed anything?
I haven't. I mean, I know we looked for it because that's the kind I get stuck. Like, we talked about getting stuck on the zone count. We get stuck. I get stuck in those numbers. I get stuck in 8-bit versus 10. I know we're dying for 12-bit, but in reality, seeing them side by side, calibrated, not calibrated, there was nothing in the image that made me say, oh, okay, this is it.
Hey, Leo, he's referring to reviewers saying the S95C and the S90C has worse upscaling than their Neo QLED counterparts. So this was an issue last year, and this year it appears for whatever reason, and we're assuming they're using the same processor, but it's not. And even Ratings is seeing this. It looks like their processing on the QD-OLED is a step behind on their Neo QLEDs. And this is why I also wanted to introduce low bitrate processing to the scorecard on the Shootout. But it's difficult to do that because you have to recreate low bitrate. Then you have to distribute it among the multiple TVs. And if YouTube TV, and the way, I mean, I love that we target YouTube TV, but YouTube TV consistently has bad bit rate.
Yeah, it's like
but what if the day we use YouTube TV has great bit rate? Then what, right?
Yeah,
and so we have to standardize this low bit rate for testing. And so it's not always visible all the time. And, that's something that based on certain reviewers like myself or Brandon, we're observing that, but some people don't see it at all because they don't have the bit rate that specifically exposes that issue. So that's just something that we've noticed. But it's not such a big deal that I wouldn't recommend it, though.
Well, and I mean, let's also discuss the fact that QD-OLED will look different in general. So it may bring out the flaws by having a higher contrast ratio, where LEDs being more flat might look better with low bitrate content.
And Robert, I want to show you this, right? This is TechnoDad's spatial audio demo toolkit. And the reason why I'm showing this is Robert is going to try and compare flagship soundbars this year. And I told him, I'm going to call TechnoDad and get his spatial audio to see how they're different between the different ones, right? I mean, this will be the first time we're comparing soundbars. Now, this is not a true shootout, but more like a demo, because it's so hard to do soundbar shootouts. But it gives the attendees a chance to check out. So which soundbars we're going to have? The Sony HTA9, which I love.
Yes.
The Samsung flagship Q990C.
Yes.
LG's flagship, the Sennheiser Ambeo with subwoofer.
Yes.
And the Sonos with the full arc, the multiple satellites, right? And the subwoofer.
I won't mention Samsung's name.
It starts with an S, ends with a G.
But it's not Samsung.
There's new 98-inch TVs coming out that are crazy good.
Yeah.
Hear that, guys?
So we're thinking about lining up all the 98-inch TVs and actually doing a quick evaluation of them.
Yeah.
See what the differences are between all the new 98s and or the new 85-inch TVs, which are also so world-class.
This is going to be so much fun because, like, during lunch breaks and stuff like that, Brian and I could run into the other demo room. Brian's going to put in his fun mode and see what the judges say when they look. Oh, wow, these TVs look amazing. Who calibrated them? Brian's like, my fun mode, and then
it's just
change the world.
But for you guys that don't know Robert, Robert is a dear friend of both FOMO and I. I love Robert's whole family. Robert is not a salesman.
No,
Robert is so passionate about this industry. I wish you guys could be there when we're filming or when I'm filming.
And Aqua has a great question. I think this is something Robert could answer because it segues into what TVs will be at the shootout. He asked, is a Sharp Aquos XLED, will it be at the shootout? And on top of that, obviously the G3 and the A95L the Sony QD-OLED, and LG's flagship. What other TVs will be at the shootout, Robert, if you can answer that now?
Sure. Well, the Sharp Aquos XLED will be in the event competing.
All right.
And the two TVs you mentioned, of course. In the 4K shootout, just to continue the rest of the list, we're looking and we're likely to take Hisense U8K and include that as well. It's to be determined, but it's 90% for sure. Sharp, we mentioned. You said the S95K.
C, right? The Samsung S95C.
Thank you. And the QN95C.
Okay. I think this takes us to Leo's question. We can get the 85-inch X95L against the QN900C because at this point, I don't know if 8K makes as big of a difference as everything else. The number of dimming zones, the processing, right? So I'd love to see a mix and match of the 900C, which is new for 2023, versus the X95L, which is arguably Sony's best TV, regardless of 8K or 4K.
Absolutely.
From their non-OLEDs this year. I mean, that'd be a great just side-by-side between those two TVs, Robert. What do you think of that?
I like that idea very much.
But I think Robert
thought about bringing all the 85-inch TVs in.
Yeah, but I would. But see, this is where I would make it even worse. Is the QN95C at 85 inches is stunning.
Yes,
I think it outperforms the 900C. So it would be interesting to have them there with the QN95C at 85 inches. That's the one that I most recommend out of the other sizes. So that's where I guess it gets a little crazy. But I feel like Sony is going to miss out on one of their best years as far as the X90L is excellent as well. But the X95 is their best LED to date.
Yes,
and it has to be there against. So if you have the 900C or the 95C, either one, you have to have the 95L. And see, Leo, changes, right? You're influencing the actual shootout. This is why we have these things.
And we are going to have the QN900C in the 8K shootout, the new one.
I bought an S95C for a bright family room on your advice.
Good.
Thank you. Good. Does the improved panel consistency of QD-OLED make it easier to copy calibration settings so there is no discernible difference? So I'll tell you, Monster, out of the box, it already looks pretty accurate in filmmaker mode. All you're playing with is either static or active tone mapping, but I think everything else is really close. I've spoken to Class C. There's very little you're going to do but it doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it feels like the white point is very consistent on the QD-OLED. So if you do see Class C sharing any of his calibration settings, I feel very comfortable saying, go ahead and copy it over and see if you like it. You can always go back. Unlike other brands like TCL and Hisense, where I wouldn't exactly copy it over because it's all over the place out of the box.
That's right.
It feels like Samsung S95C is pretty consistent, right, Robert? Because you had a couple of go through your store and you have Dwayne and your team calibrated. Are you seeing consistency across the board with the S95Cs?
Yeah, they are very consistent, and it's another nice upgrade this year. So I like that you recommended that TV, and I love that TV. And it's well worth its price. The value is amazing.
Well, for you guys too, though, if you have a Samsung QLED mini LED, don't be afraid to go from static to active, because what we think is great in filmmaker mode, you won't see that Samsung pop in that mode. It will look muddy. It'll be accurate. Don't be afraid to. That's what I'm saying about copying settings. What one guy says he likes, don't be afraid to get out of that first picture settings. Go into dynamic tone mapping. It brought the QN95C to life.
Yeah.
So I would definitely experiment with that.
And this is 2020. Do you want me to answer his good question?
Yeah, Robert. People are asking, is Panasonic still around? Are you still selling these Pro panels?
We wish.
So we're factory direct with Panasonic. We are very friendly with everybody at that company, including the highest management. And we were their exclusive dealer for their professional panels that went to Hollywood grading studios. But they stopped bringing them in the U.S., including Hollywood. So every time I speak to them, I ask them to give me some of those OLEDs they have. And I would say there's a slim chance, but I'm a very tenacious person.
Christian, he wants to know, Robert, would you consider adding a day for the public? He would definitely buy a ticket for that.
Yes. So I was able to persuade Dealerscope, who's my sponsor partner, to let me have 10 consumers in that are the most serious enthusiasts.
Oh, awesome.
And they will charge a very small fee because we're going to serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner and beverages all day long, and there'll be a nice gift box package you're going to walk out with. So they are going to charge, and it's limited to 10 seats.
Well,
Oh,
I will
fantastic.
give Christian my endorsement. I saw him at M-Wave.
Yeah,
He
he's great.
went to Kansas City. He is definitely enthusiast.
Yep,
Please,
So yeah, reach out to Robert.
send me an email saying that
Email
you
Robert.
and I'll forward you to the executives at DealerScope.
Kyle, thanks for the super chat. He wants to know what 8K TVs will be at the shootout. So, Robert, do you have a final 8K list at the shootout?
Well, assuming we don't get a Z3, and there's only a very small chance we will, we'll have the Z2 again. We'll have the X, is it an X or a Z95K? And we're going to have the new Samsung QN900C. And at the moment, that's likely all there'll be, 3 TVs.
Yeah. That's what we had last year.
And put the X95L there, the 4K, as a
I like that idea.
right?
I mean,
Because how much better?
I like that idea.
I mean, the local dimming on the X95L is the best I've ever seen.
I have a G3 77-inch being delivered tomorrow.
Good.
Have you guys seen DSE or banding on these, or are they as clean as the 65-inch model you've seen? So I would have to say that it's slightly better than last year, but it's still there, and it's definitely panel louder. You might be lucky and get a clean one. Robert, what is your experience with the G3 DSE this year?
They are nicely, you might say moderately, it's not splitting hairs, but it's not dramatic. Right. Cleaner than last year. They're also a little bit brighter than last year as well. And the MLA is great.
An MLA cleaned it up a little bit, Robert.
It does. So I think you're going to be happy. But it is panel lottery, and we do see variation from sample to sample because we do a lot of QC and calibration work on them for clients.
Yep.
But they're better than last year, and I'm sure you're going to love it. It's beautiful.
And I'll tell you guys though, buying new TVs, we all recommend a break-in period of 200 hours.
Thank you, Brian. They actually do get better over time.
Yeah, especially OLEDs do 200 hours, but also watch it organically with your favorite content before you start finding banding. Because if you put slides up, grayscale slides, every one of them has banding.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more super chat up in one more.
Snuck it right in there. Hey, Patrick, will you guys be reviewing the Hisense 85 UX soon? So the 85 UX is a limited release, right, Robert? I mean, Robert is trying to get it for
He's been trying to get it, yeah.
But there's like, what, less than 500 that's going to be sold in the USA?
Right.
And even though Robert is a dealer, he's having a hard time getting an allocation. So it's not going to be easy. We'll try.
That's correct.
It would have been there because we talked about it at the beginning of the year. Robert wanted to have the UX there if it was available. You know, I've been there when he's trying to I've been there when he's on the phone trying to get it.
Yep.
Where's my UX?
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is just our first kickoff. It's quick because he's got to go, but we'll be doing these every week and we'll get you guys involved. We appreciate you all being here tonight.
Yeah, I got to get out of here before the Category 4 tropical storm.
He's traveling in that too, man.
I know, right?
Don't get it twisted. He's fearless.